what I really wanted to look at was you've listened to me give speeches for probably the last 4, 5, 6 years about leadership, about where I've gone, the conferences that I've developed, the organizations that I've managed and run, the places that I've gone and taught from Europe to Asia to Latin America to North America, wherever, hitting all 50 states in the United States. And there's never an opportunity for you all to say, hey, I have a question about that. How did you do that? Where did you go? What things did you really enjoy? Those kinds of things. And so I thought, rather than giving you another speech for which you could ask questions, I thought, why not allow you to just sort of go back in your memory and go, gee, I always wanted to know what Linda did with this, or how Linda did that, or tell us the experience that you had there, or whatever it might be. And so this is really an open forum for you all to basically ask me questions, to get a sense of where I've been for 75 years and 50 years of marriage and 2 kids and 3 grandchildren, my Toastmasters career, two, um, yeah, DTMs, a awards every year for the district, and just pick my brain. That's my challenge to you, is ask me a question that challenges me. And Barbara, please make sure that the cards go up, please, because I have no idea how the timing is going to go. All right. Thank you. So I've seated 3 people in the audience to ask at least the first questions. So Michelle, do you want to start?
Yes, I'm happy to start. And I have a specific curiosity about how you ever got into event planning. That is, and getting customers or clients that would ask you to plan their events at a massive scale. So I'm curious, how did you do that, especially that interim between being a officer in the army to working in the real world? How did you do that?
Ah, well, thank you, Michelle. That's a wonderful question. And it is an interesting journey. I came out of the military and was in graduate school, was working for an insurance company, and they were wonderful people, but had nothing to do with meeting planning. It really wasn't until Crocker Bank was sold to Wells Fargo. That was also a long time ago. And I was on a job. They took one of my department of 20 people. And we had done training across the organization and all the regions, North and South America, Europe, Asia, everywhere. And my partner and I, he was one of my managers, said, we have so much to share with professional associations. Let's see if we can't manage one. And the American Society for Training and Development, Silicon Valley chapter, was looking for an officer to be able to do all that. So we independently started managing ASTD, and we ended up with the Northern California, Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, and that's where we started our event planning, because we had an event every month that we had to plan, that we had to make sure that we had speakers for, location, all of that good stuff. When I really went out on my own and formed Dare to Lead with Linda, we also stayed with the associations. And my biggest association was the California Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages, otherwise known as CATESOL. And we started with their statewide conference. And then we did local conferences as well. And then we bid on the International Society of Political Psychology, because one of their members' wives was a Katisal member. And she said, you have to hire this woman. She is phenomenal. She can bring together hundreds of people and manage this thing. And it's a multi-day event and it runs so smoothly. You gotta have her. And so that's where that came from. So those were the two organizations that were the largest. And to be able to plan in other countries, to fly over and really start with nothing. We generally had a local academic contact, and that was it. And I have to tell you, it was just so much fun. And that's how we started our business. Thank you, Michelle. Did that answer your question? You're muted.
It was basically a matter of losing a job and it creating an opportunity for you.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Ellen, your hand is up.
Okay, Linda, I understand that you were in the military, and I'm curious on two things. One, when you signed up for the military, did you have a goal in mind of a career? And number two, whether or not you did, tell me about how your career did progress in the military and what were the things you liked, what were the areas you liked best that got you to where you were before you left?
Okay. That's relatively easy. My dad was a Navy man. Actually, before that, he was a Marine, but we don't talk about that. And so as I was getting to be a junior in college, I'm going, I don't want to be a secretary. I don't want to be an admin. I don't want to be this. I want to lead. I want to have a department. I want to have a group of people who I'm responsible for and that kind of thing. And my dad said, military, because I would have gone in as an officer, as a college graduate. I said, but Dad, what if I don't like it? He said, well, look, the Army has this program called the College Junior Program. And it's a 1 month deal. You go down to Fort McClellan, Alabama, the hellhole of Alabama, and you spend a month in training. If you like it, you can continue. If you don't, you've wasted a month and that's it. I said, but Dad, you were a Navy man. Why not the Navy? He said, because that's an 8-week program. And if you don't like it, you will have wasted the entire summer. So, okay. So I went to Fort McClellan. I was a college junior and I liked it. I liked the discipline. I liked what we learned. I liked the leadership. I liked all of that. And it was structured, which was something that I didn't have a whole lot of. Came back, I became a junior officer. Actually was a corporal, actually a full-time corporal while I was in my senior year in college. I got paid. The guys who were in ROTC hated me because they didn't get paid and they had to do things and I didn't have to do anything. But I could get them in the PX when we went to Europe. We were in Germany and we had a lecture on the PX system in Germany because Germany had so many soldiers. So I said, sir, could we go to the PX? I'd like to cash some checks. And he goes, oh, well, you have to have a card. I pulled my card out like this. He goes, it's down the block, about 3 blocks and over to your right. And I cashed checks for everybody. So they had money when we went to Paris. I went from that to WAC Officer Basic, went back to McClellan and found that there was just something about it that resonated with me. And I kept going. I went from there to Fort Devens, Massachusetts, where I was an administrative officer. I was the POW-MIA liaison officer. I also learned how to speak. This is where I learned my speaking, was I had to stand up in front of a group of high school seniors during Vietnam and encourage them to join up. How successful do you think we were? Well, I have to tell you that I was the most successful in my team and I was the only woman on the team. Guys hated me for that. I then went back to Fort McClellan, was a basic training officer, was executive officer of a team. I had 50 women that I was responsible for, and I had only my sergeants to help me out with that. And they rotated every 6 weeks. Oh, and I had one group that rotated every 2 weeks. I used to use that as part of my management training. It's like, how would you like it if you started a new branch? You hired all the people, you clothed them, you fed them, you trained them, and then 6 weeks later, they all left and had to do it all over again. And they're all go, oh my God, I can't imagine that. I said, so you got it easy. These people will stay with you if you are a good leader. Then I was selected to be the protocol officer for a 4-star general and went to Fort Monroe, Virginia, and that was a blessing. I loved it. So I had so many fabulous opportunities in the military that I wouldn't have had I been in civilian life, to be able to lead people, to experience different cultures, different people, all of that. So it was, I would not have changed that at all. What I would have changed was when I actually got out. My husband said to me when he moved to Dallas, he said, if you want to marry me, you have to get out of the military. No, and the funny thing is, his family is all military. So it was sort of an interesting thing. I said yes, and after 50 years, there are moments when I regret having said yes, that I would have rather have continued with that and actually retired as, who knows, a general. Thank you, Ellen. Constance.
Thank you, Linda. That was great. And I understand from what you said is you definitely went in with the attitude of a career.
Yes, I did.
And your
I
career
did.
sounds wonderful. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Constance? You're muted, honey.
As I've heard you speak, my question has changed a little bit, and it's actually the first part of the question is, with all this travel you've done, given that you were in the military for some of it, how much did you actually experience the cultures of the countries that you were in?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, Constance. And the answer is quite a bit. Because when working with the International Society of Political Psychology, we immersed ourselves in that college that we were at, and we did everything on the ground with the locals. So we had them giving us tours, showing us their life, because that was the type of people that they were. They were looking for the politics and understanding the politics in that particular country. So when we went to Berlin and went through the wall to the other side, we actually had people from that side explaining the architecture and why it looked the way it did and what they had done and how different it was from the West. And it was really, everywhere we went, we embraced the culture. We embraced the people who were there, and we got to know the locals. And so for me, because I was the lead person and I got to go over ahead of time, I made friends with all of um, our folks who were working with us on the event itself. I lost a word there. So I think because of who I was seeing overseas and the type of organization that it was, we got to know a whole lot about the locals and what their political challenges were, as well as what their personal and business challenges were. Does that answer your question?
Well, that was the first part of it. I needed to
Okay.
find that out. And so the question that I had originally was, given all this travel and the fact that you've experienced other cultures, what would you say are the gifts and the strengths of our culture, and what are the challenges that other countries have been able to deal with better than we have?
I still think that we are an arrogant people, that we feel that our way is the right way, and that we are the ones who know best how to run a country or an economy or whatever. And we don't always look at, well, what's great about that? What's great about Germany? what's great about France? What about Turkey? And looking at what they do extremely well and the way we could incorporate that into who we are. And that's a challenge that I had. But I also worked with academics who, I want my car. Is my car out front yet? So I got very used to the entitled individuals and worked around that, especially with the people that we were working with on a local basis. I loved working with the locals. They were such an amazing group of people, and I learned so much about each one of the cultures that I feel I've incorporated them into what I do. I don't know whether our professors did because of who they were and what they were. But yeah, I definitely embraced the countries that I went to, those that I actually could see. When we went to Panama, we weren't allowed to see anybody. We could travel, but we couldn't stop and visit with folks. And there was a whole political thing about that. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Did that answer the question, Constance?
Well, it was sort of a political answer, which is what you learned, but it didn't answer the question, which is what do you see as our strengths and what do you see as our challenges at other. So you answered the challenge, but what do you see as our strengths?
I think the fact that we're an innovative country. We look for what's the next thing? What's the next thing we can do? How can we make this better? That kind of thing. I can't say, I don't want to get into the politics of what's going on today. But back then we were much more collaborative and looking at how can we work together. I mean, many of the presentations that were done for ISPP were collaborative groups from across the globe. So in that respect, we embraced where we were, the people who were in the program, and all of that. So I loved it then. I don't know that I'd want to be doing it now.
Okay, thank you.
You're
you
welcome.
so much.
Okay. Deb, did we okay, I saw Tiffany there for a moment. Deb? You're muted.
Can't get the mute off. Hang on. Is it off? There we go.
Yeah.
Hi there. I would like to know if you had to pick one skill and one skill only that you learned from your experience in the military, which one was the most valuable to your success in your career in civilian? But you have to choose the top skill. Only one.
Okay. Only one. I learned how to be a woman, an officer, and a leader, and to be able to combine all three of those in such a way that I could be powerful. And I learned how to use questions to get what I needed to have done. And it was one of the things that I did with my education classes when I opened dialogues, which is something that is not done in the military. And I found that helped me the most and moved me forward because I was different, and everybody wanted me because I was different. And I didn't command, I used influence instead. Thank you. Tiffany, you get, how much time do I have, Barbara?
2.
It's 19 minutes right now.
2.
Okay.
1 minute.
I don't think I can answer another question in a minute. I have to tell you, this has been great fun. You made me think, which doesn't happen often. You realized that this was totally off the cuff. Nothing was scripted. And I think that made it a very interesting speech. I hope you all enjoyed it, got to know me just a little bit better. And I find it very interesting that you all focused on the military side for the most part. And I thank you so very much. And I'm going to